This is going to be such an incredible day because I'm going to introduce you to one of my best friends in the wild edible plant world, and also one of my dear apprentices who's come back to help me. She used to come back when she was 12 and 13 and probably 14, but now here she is Abigail Button. And so she's showing us how to do one of the preparations with Lambsquarter. This particular plant is one of my most treasured nutritional powerhouses, and the reason why I felt compelled to share about it today is because it is about to go out of season, even though you can farm it all the way up till the fall, and I'll explain how that works later. The reason why it's optimal to get it now is because it's most tender and most delicious when it's 12 inches tall or less. So this is what it looks like. Help you to dig deeper into your own study and your own experiences in your journey with Lambsquarter and each of the plants. So it's really exciting. I love what I do and I love sharing it with others, but really it becomes yours when you embrace it by finding it, gathering it, cooking with it, storing it for winter use, and empowering your body with its many, many blessings, no matter what the plant is. Another caveat or another disclaimer is I am just a conglomeration of maybe 300 books that I have and the internet and all of my mentors and people that are gone before, so I'm not coming up with anything new. One of the best books I've ever read on foraging is by John Callis, and he has an incredible section here on Lambsquarter, which is all stuff that I'd already experienced, but to see the way he writes it is just really clear. And so when I share some things in the slideshow presentation, a lot of that will be thank you to John. So I always start my class with a wild edible tea, and so our wild tea today is going to be an elderflower cordial mixed with frozen watermelon, and that makes a really delicious slushy. So what I put in my blender is some frozen watermelon that I'd already cubed up. And then this is some elderflower orange juice that I had it for my class on Friday, and I need the liquid, but it has the cordial in it. To that, I'm going to add some straight cordial. And the recipes for all of this are going to be posted. And then I'm just going to put it in the blender. Okay, and that's for you. Jason, what do you think?
Very tasty.
That's really, really good.
So it's kind of rainy today and not all that hot, but I'll tell you what, on a hot summer day, there is nothing like an elderflower slushy with watermelon.
Yeah, I agree.
Abigail has worked really hard to prepare a wild salad for you.
So basically, we're going to start off with the dressing. And one of the ingredients that I used that I decanned was pine white apple cider vinegar that Miss Holly made.
Yep, so remember when we taught about pine back in January, and I showed you how all you do is just put the pine needles into the jar, pour the apple cider vinegar over that, and put a plastic lid on it? It's been steeping all these weeks, and so it smells amazing. It smells like a pine forest, and so it's that balsamic vinegar that I wanted to have that flavor. So she used that instead of just regular vinegar.
So what we're going to start off is with the dressing. I use 1/4 cup of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of honey, 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard, 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, which we used this thing. And then I use 2 teaspoons of lemon juice and salt and pepper to taste, and it smells super good.
But we're going to eat this for lunch, so you're not going to spread this on until later. So I'll put it over here.
I took the stems off because we're going to eat that for lunch because
Yes.
Miss Holly Drake said it tastes like asparagus.
Yes, well, it depends on how you fix it. It is an absolute delectable. So what you're looking for is just really meristematic and really juicy and not woody. Once it gets woody, kind of like at the bottom of an asparagus stem, you know how woody that is, and you only take off the top. So the same thing here, but this is too young to be woody. But as they get older, they get woody because they've got to hold up all those seeds. Does that make sense?
So what we're going to do first is we are going to put...
And the Lambsquarter it lays very flat. It's a very dense leaf, and so it doesn't make a great salad. You can boil, you can do all kinds of things with it. You can saute it. However, if you use it in a salad, it's really best to chop it pretty well and to mix it with regular lettuce or some other wild green that has a little more fluff to it. Wild plants are 5 to 7 times higher nutrition than regular plants, and Lambsquarter is one of the highest in nutrition.
Why is that they're higher in nutrition than regular plants?
Well, for one thing, the enzymes are fresh. I picked it this morning, so the enzymes that we need to digest are just like, this is still alive. This is living food. Also, it doesn't have any it's not genetically modified. It doesn't have any herbicides or pesticides on it. So it's pretty amazing. As you know, because there were some aphids.
Yeah, there were some aphids.
But that's just protein, right?
Yeah, it's just protein. Okay.
But go ahead and tell us what else you're going to add to this amazing salad.
So, what I have first, which is something most people put on salads, which is goat cheese.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to sprinkle that on top of there. Then we have ramps, but they're pickled ramps.
Yes.
And this Holly Drake made, and they smell really good. They smell kind of like garlic.
See, because the ramps are no longer in vogue. They were only here in April, right? So they're gone, and right now you can barely see them because they kind of just absorb back into the earth. But if you can preserve them and ferment them, like I've done here, I've got wild onion in here, and also at the top you can see all these ramp bulbs. So she put some of those in, and then what are you going to do?
And then we have strawberries, of course,
Yes.
because it's a strawberry salad. And you're going to sprinkle those on top. Oh, they're so vibrant. And then we have, I need to remember the name of this,
Japanese knotweed.
Japanese knotweed, which I have not tried yet.
Okay, remember guys, I taught about that. We did a whole hour class on Japanese knotweed, and go ahead and throw it in. It has resveratrol in it, which means reverse it all. So this is like letting food be your medicine and medicine your food. It was interesting when I was up at Central Park. Did you know I went to Central Park?
I did not.
I went to go see Jordan up in New York City, and I went to Central Park, and I went foraging with Steve Brill, who, Wildman Steve Brill, is one of my heroes in the foraging world. And he was telling me, as we're passing by all this Japanese knotweed, which is taking over the park, it's actually taking over the whole world, but I'm saying, well, why aren't you talking about Japanese knotweed? And he said, well, Holly, it's not edible anymore. It's only edible in the early spring when it's the early little shoots that have those delicious lemony rings, which is what I have frozen, and now they're defrosted in there. So now what are you adding?
We have walnuts, and we put maple syrup on it and some salt to taste, and we basically toasted them in a pan, and they taste really good.
When we're ready for lunch, you're going to mix out that together, add some avocado, and put the dressing in, and it'll be so good.
I agree.
I wish you guys could join us. But see how simple it is to eat wild? Okay, our verse for today is Psalms 104, verse 14, which says, God gave herbs for the service of man. And I just thought I would pick that verse for this plant because it is such an amazing gift to us nutritionally. Next to amaranth, it's the highest in nutrition of all of the wild edible plants. So that says a lot. And when we get into my slideshow, I'll tell you exactly what nutrition is in it. But it's far better than the other plants that are than spinach. This is like a wild spinach. I wanted to also share that Linda Runyon said that she would take one Lambsquarter plant and she would literally farm it to last the whole season just for herself. That's how amazing this plant is, how prolific it is, and how determined it is to grow. But there's some caveats on how you do that so that it can grow well and not just be over-harvested. During World War II, the U.S. government gave out information that garden weeds were good food. Imagine that. The top weeds included amaranth and Lambsquarters. Not only are these plants nutritious, but they are not bothered by cutworms. Lambsquarters grows phenomenally fast. In fact, just one plant yields all I need for a summer's meal for me. I just shared that with you. Dried leaves make a delicious and nutritious flour. Mix it with a bit of water to make a tortilla, or combine with wheat flour to make an enriched pita bread or fry bread. She has all kinds of really good suggestions for collection and storage. We always talk about, when we befriend our plants, what its reputation is. What is my name? Where do I live? What do I look like? What do I do? Or where can you find me again? So we'll go over those as I do my slideshow, but I wanted to talk first about its reputation. So those of you that have eaten Lambsquarter before, I'd love for you to comment what you think of it. Like, give me what kind of a reputation it has in your heart and in your mind. When you think of Lambsquarter, what is the first adjective you think of? Its formal name is Chenopodium album, and it's in the same family, Chenopodium acacia, as beets and spinach. Chino means goose, podium means foot, and album means white. And this picture is my good friend Allie's garden, and she lets the lambsquarter come up to about 12 inches tall, and she harvests it, and then she plants her corn there. This is a real amazing destination to get lambsquarter. It's called lots of different nicknames, and one of them is goosefoot because the leaf itself looks like a goose foot. It's also called a lambsquarter, like we've been talking about. It's called fat hen. The other one is pigweed. And so what do all of those 4 nicknames have in common? They're all farm animals, and it's because this plant in particular was used to feed livestock, and they love it. Its stature is it grows very, very tall. It can get up to 10 feet tall. And its branches are alternate. So it's like a stair step. It doesn't go across from each other in an opposite pattern, it goes alternate. The cotyledon leaves, the first leaves that come out that are the embryonic leaves, look kind of like little propellers. They're linear and they're straight, but they have a rounded tip. And then the second leaves that show up begin with the wavy margins. The tender microgrooves are wonderful to eat raw in salads or by themselves. So what I would recommend is when you have a little patch like this, obviously a larger plant had said seed down below, you want to thin them, but I would wait until you have about 6 or more leaves on each and every plant before you thin it. And that way you can save all that you've thinned for really tender microgreens, and then the rest of the plants that you leave will be much stronger as they grow. I had dropped some lambsquarter seed on my porch above this picture, and the next year this is what popped up. The leaves are diamond shaped, and they have wavy teethed margins. Do you see those wavy? They're like nothing else I've ever seen. They just have a wavy look to them. They're covered with tiny hairs that really you can't see unless you look under a lens. Venation is rather palmate, and the hairs serve as kind of a repellent. They're hydrophobic, which means water phobic, afraid of water. They repel water, but it's not just the hairs, it's the powder or the pollen that also waterproofs the lambsquarter. Water droplets bead up and roll off during a rain. So if you can spray them with a mister, and you'll see how they just bead up like jewels. Isn't that beautiful? Jewelweed does the same thing, and that's why it's called jewelweed. Feel of the pollen feels kind of gritty, and you can wash that off. There's so much nutrition in the pollen. I just kind of don't usually wash it if it's in a good area. The stems are kind of grooved, and they have reddish purple lines sometimes. The tender stems make a really excellent vegetable. Once it gets a lot of red on the stem, then you don't want to consume that, because we'll talk about the oxalics in a minute. If you harvest the terminal shoot, lateral branches will develop in the axils of the leaves that are left behind. So you can harvest another crop from the same plant in just about a week or 2 by pinching them with your fingertips and getting the new shoots. New branches will grow in the leaf axis and will continue your harvest all throughout the summer into the early fall. You're actually helping it grow by pinching it like that and grabbing some. So when you're harvesting these young plants, never take them up by the roots. Just keep pruning it and eating it, and it will continue to grow. The flower buds, John Callis calls them broccoli flowers, but they have a really good chew factor, and they're so yummy and delicious. They have no petals. These petalless green flowers cover the upper tips of branches in the late summer and fall. When they're in bloom, small yellow stamens can be seen discharging pollen, and once they've been pollinated, they dry up, and these structures will hold the shiny black seeds. And here's a picture of fall harvest. You can see buckeyes, which you don't eat, but they're certainly fun to play with, and goldenrod. And then in the red basket, you'll see the lambsquarter seed clusters. And on the right, you can see them in the red bowl, or more of the flowers. So when you brush by tall lambsquarter in this seed stage in the late fall, you can hear thousands of seeds falling, and this is what they look like on the right. Little tiny black seeds, and this is related to quinoa, which is in the Chenopodium acacia family as well. and the Indians in Peru used them to make bread. One plant can produce up to 75,000 seeds. They're really a viable food source. In fact, they are so high, they're higher than hamburgers in nutrition. They're high in calories, calcium, potassium, niacin, phosphorus, fiber, and most especially protein. So my friend Hannah has ripped up the whole plant so we can take it home, kind of transporting it easier than having to do the work in the field. But this whole field behind her is nothing but tall Lambsquarter seeds. And I'll never forget, this was a farmer's field, the Cooper Farm, and I'll never forget how they had plastic landscape cover on the ground where the plants had come through that they had tried to grow, like pumpkins. But the weeds also came through their hole. So as we were walking through this very tall mass of Lambsquarter seed heads, I could hear thousands of little tiny noises of seeds as they were hitting the plastic covering below. A memory I'll never forget. Specific to Lambsquarter, and that is leaf miners. Leaf miners are a tiny moth that lays her egg inside of a leaf of the Lambsquarter. It's a really interesting phenomenon because the caterpillar that hatches from the egg is so small and so flattened that it can eat the inside of the leaf without disturbing the top or the bottom layer of the cells. These outer layers, called leaf epidermis, do not contain chlorophyll and are transparent, so you can hold the leaf up to the light and see the small insect at work. So sometimes you'll see that when you're harvesting Lambsquarters and you'll think, oh, that's disgusting. Well, it's completely contained to that one leaf. So you can simply not collect that leaf, or you can dispose of it when you bring it home. Another phenomenon that is really, really common with Lambsquarters, comment in the comments if you've experienced this, when you go to forage and you see that along the stem is black with aphids and also ants. And so there's a reason for that, and I have this amazing video that Jason's going to show. I never learned this until just recently, and I think it's fascinating.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the garden here. I found this interesting when I learned it, and I thought maybe I should share it with you guys. So this is an interesting relationship between ants, aphids, and in this case, the Lambsquarters plant. So if you look what's going on here, you'd say, oh no, my plant's full of bugs, but what's actually happening is that the aphids have been coaxed here by the ants and sort of shown where the good food is to eat. And they all latch onto the plant and start sucking its plant juice. And the high pressure, I guess, of the plant sort of like excretes this stuff called honeydew. It like kind of shoots through their whole body, or it's kind of like aphid excretion. And anyway, it's full of sugary substances. And so what the ants do is they come along and they collect all the droplets that they produce. And when they've collected it all, they take it back and I think they feed the colony with it. So the aphids are almost like a little, a cattle for the ants. The ants herd them up the plant, show them what to eat and how to eat, and they kind of guard them against other predators, I believe. And then they carefully take what the aphids don't need. So it's a very mutually beneficial relationship between the two. And it's very interesting. So whenever I see this going on, I don't pull the plant. I don't try to get rid of it. I simply let it be. Because if you take this away, they're going to have to find some other plant, and it'll probably be one that you're more sentimentally attached to, like when you're more precious seedlings. The Lambsquarter is a great plant. Oh, I got my finger in the way. But it's super common compared to, one of your big tomatoes or whatever it is that you're guarding against. Anyway, so I just wanted to let you know that that sort of thing is going on, and more sentimentally attached to, like when you're more precious seedlings. The Lambsquarter is a great plant. Oh, I got my finger in the way. But, it's super common compared to, one of your big tomatoes or whatever it is that you're guarding against. Anyway, so I just wanted to let you know that that sort of thing is going on, and just how interesting it really is. In the wonderful world of the garden. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so now you know why sometimes later in the summer you'll see a ton of little black aphids on the stem, just all clustered together. So get your jeweler's loupe out. Always carry this with you and look at them up close and personal, and you'll see the ants, and you'll see that whole process, that symbiotic process that this plant provides for them. I think that's so fascinating. I prefer when they get on there to really clean it well, but when they're not on there yet, then I just eat the Lambsquarter without washing it because I love the nutrition of. Okay, so let's talk about what do you do. So now we know what it looks like. Lambsquarter nutrition. It is the most nutritious leafy green ever analyzed. Beats out domestic spinach in fiber. It is 4 times higher in potassium than spinach, and it is higher in magnesium than beet greens, and is a rich, rich source of lutein and vitamin A and C. Tastes better, in my opinion, than spinach, both for flavor and its nutrition. Okay, but I want to give a warning. It is one of the oxalic foods. So like spinach, like beets, like raspberries, buckwheat, all of these plants, dark chocolate, they all have high oxalates in them. And so if you have issues with that, and some people do, especially with kidney issues, then just be warned that this is not a plant that you would want to consume. However, if you cook the Lambsquarter, it will destroy the oxalic acid. Use it in salads or smoothies. Just use a little bit of lemon juice to neutralize the oxalic acid as well to help prevent kidney stones. So that's just something I want to always make sure that you know these caveats, because that can make a difference in eating any of these foods. All right, here's the picture of Lambsquarter ready to cook, and you can see it from 8 to 10 o'clock on this pretty clock of all the things I had gathered. Lambsquarter in salad, how you want to include it with other leafy greens or regular salad greens so that it makes it more airy and not so compressed. Here is into a pesto, and all of these recipes will be on my Patreon page. We just put it in with the couscous, and that made it amazing. And here I'd made Lambsquarter spanakopita, but I call it chinakopita because I did it with Lambsquarter instead of spinach. So basically, guys, anything that you can do with spinach, you can use with Lambsquarter, only know it's better nutrition. Here I made it into a salsa, Lambsquarter salsa. And here it is powdered. Linda would powder hers by putting the dried leaf into a pillowcase and then wringing it until it became a powder, because she didn't have electricity. But I simply put mine in a Vitamixer, and you can put a tablespoon of that into your smoothies, or you can just use the fresh leaves into crackers or put it into biscuits or pancakes. Today I think Abigail and I are going to making tortillas with them. You want to do that? Mm-hmm. Lambsquarter steamed or stirred fried is probably one of the most popular ways that people do it. You can make it like a creamed spinach. You can make it just stir fried with whatever Asian flavoring or whatever flavor you want. I made a pesto out of the Lambsquarter, and I used that for a base for a wild pizza. And on the right hand side, these are lots of different wild pizzas, but one of them has Lambsquarter. And so what I recommend for this, and I got this from John Callis, is he said steam the Lambsquarter greens and then add enough olive oil to coat them before adding them to your pizza. The oil prevents the greens from drying out. If you want more greens in your pizza, put a whole layer of a finely chopped wild Lambsquarter between the tomato sauce and the cheese. So you're just upping your nutrition, or you could just use that instead of tomato sauce. So now we'll talk about the stem. Already chopped up and ready to go into, I stir-fried them. Some onions, and those are daylily flower buds, which are so good. I made a regular burrito, and the greens that I used were all Lambsquarter. Linda talks about she would take Lambsquarter seeds and she would put them into a thermos and then cover them with boiling water and then let them sit overnight. In the morning it would be like a gruel, and I don't have a picture of that, nor have I ever tried that. She also gives a recommendation for Lambsquarter patties, and so I made those. So it all has to do with preparation and how you prepare as to how tasty it is. I think Linda lived in the wild for so long off the land that she didn't use flavors, and she just got really used to the flavors that nature provides, which are much more subtle and sometimes a little more hard to take. And we just coat it over with seasonings.
Bacon, anything with bacon.
Anything with bacon, absolutely. seeds are a nutritional powerhouse. 19.6 grams of protein for half a cup. That's amazing. And they're 57 grams of carbohydrates for the same amount, even high in fat. So I love to save them and use them all year long for energy balls that I send my boys. They are so high in nutrition that you're just upping whatever flavors you've used. So find a recipe for energy balls and then just use the Lambsquarter as one of your seeds. Okay, medicinally speaking, I'm going to read this right out of Linda's book. She says this: all parts are used as a poultice for swelling, rheumatism, and arthritis. If you chew it raw for toothaches, it's supposed to be helpful. And also you can take gelatin capsules and fill them with Lambsquarter powder for a potent vitamin. It has very gentle medicinal properties, but it's really mostly just very nutritious and healthy addition to the diet. Because I've never used this for medicine, I've just consumed it for food, and its usefulness is it's a really excellent bird seed, especially for indoor birds, for bird cages. And so that would be something you could definitely, if you have a bird, you can collect. We used to have a cockatiel. It would have been fun to have fed him Lambsquarter seeds. And remember I told you just one plant can have 75,000 seeds. Okay, so how to find more Lambsquarter. So I find it's absolutely fascinating. One of my mentors who really got me started in foraging, one of the ones who got me started is Mark Williams. And the way he got started with foraging was because of this plant. And what he did is he spent a whole winter creating working very hard to create a cold frame to grow spinach. And so he got the soil, he made the cold frame, he planted the seeds, he watered it, he cared for it, and when he went to go check on it after the winter, he opened it up, and there was all of this strange plant that you see before you, which was Lambsquarter. And even though the spinach was growing, the Lambsquarter looked way, way healthier, and it was way tastier. And he just thought, forget it. I am a forager. This has now sold me. And so I think that's just really funny. And it's pretty opportune because he's probably one of the world's best foragers. And Lambsquarter started him. Lambsquarter that have been dried and destemmed and put into a jar. They can be reconstituted. These can be powdered. They can be reconstituted. Oh, that smells so good. It smells very green, and a very sweet green, I think. You can reconstitute that. You can throw it into stews, etc. You can freeze it. So I didn't go through my freezer, but I do have some of this left in there. Just make sure you write down what it is that you're freezing. So I just wrote Lambsquarter leaves. And so when I blanch them, and just simply take the leaves that I want to blanch, just blanch for a couple of minutes in boiling water, and then squeeze out the water, lay them out on a tray, and then freeze them, and then put them into a baggie to last all year long. That's one thing you can do. Or you could literally make pesto out of it, which is a great thing to do, and then freeze that in the freezer. Let's see, here's... yeah, these are really cool. This is wild Thai pesto that I made with bitter crust, wild garlic, jalapeno, cilantro, peanuts, and herbal salt. So this is not Lambsquarter, but this is a pesto I made with bitter crust that you can use all year long, and it's just so delicious. So that's one way that you can preserve and lengthen your harvest. Same thing with the stems. You can just simply freeze these. They don't need to be blanched first because they're nice and firm, but they're still very juicy and tender. So if I wasn't going to eat these for lunch, I would probably go ahead and freeze these so I can have them all year long. So there's a lot that you can do with Lambsquarter, and I hope you've developed an appreciation for this gift and realize what a service it is to us. I'll let you know how our salad tastes. For since the creation of the world, his invisible attributes, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood through what has been made. So I just put this question to you: what character quality of the Lord, of the Creator, does Lambsquarter remind you of? Thank you for supporting me with Patreon, those of you that do. I'm so grateful and humbled that you are part of our community, and I'm looking forward to learning so many more plants and getting to know each of you better as well.